I realized that there's not much work being done in Punjabi literature for children from Angad Singh's time. So when I was teaching him Punjabi, I was bringing books from India. So incidentally, I didn't speak Punjabi growing up. Since I was brought up in central India, my parents kind of didn't think about connecting us to our heritage as strongly as we feel now. So we switched to Hindi, and then I went to a Angrezi school, so I learned Angrezi there, English there. So the languages of communication were Hindi and English until 84 happened, and we realized what our identity was. And I was a young girl then, but still that struck that, we are Sikhs and we are Punjabis. So language sikhni shuru kiti apni boli. And when Angad Singh was born, unu sikhande main Punjabi sikhi. So
that's amazing. That really is amazing. I'm sure a lot of my listeners would never have imagined that, because I think we know you as the lady that teaches Punjabi that is bringing, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of amazing to think you had to teach yourself proper Punjabi so that your son would learn it properly. And so that must have been pretty challenging, especially in the United States. I mean, this is the problem I have. We get in the habit of speaking English. Everybody we talk to is always we're speaking in English, and then you don't have the habit.
Yep. We, and especially, going to the university here, when you're surrounded by English speaking people. Now, see, I'm having a hard time speaking in English with you because I had to unlearn English. I had to unlearn Hindi in order to switch myself to Punjabi. मैं बिल्कुल ही नहीं बोल दिया अंग्रेजी. If my daughter speaks to me in English, I start getting irritated. Oh my gosh, I'm really forgetting English. I was writing in English, I was a columnist I am a columnist at sikhshik.com, and I am published writer in English language. And
the books I read are in English, and they're very good, but we'll get to that later. I had to literally Hindi da te hor bhi bura haal hai. The students I went to college with, if I meet them after 20, 30 years, my classmates, I cannot speak to them in Hindi at all. We grew up speaking Hindi fluently. Now, another interesting thing I'll tell you is my parents, they were speaking to us in Hindi, and my brothers and sister and I were speaking in Hindi all the time. So when I decided enough is enough, I'm switching to Punjabi, because in order for me to learn good Punjabi, I have to kind of, just switch a button off for other languages. I started speaking to them in Punjabi. So for 10 years, the conversation went like Hindi here, Punjabi here. 10 years. And then eventually they switched to Punjabi. Wow.
Because they said, this one is not giving up. They tested me. I don't know, subconsciously or consciously, but about 10 years. So it started transitioning in the last 7 to 10 years. And then after 10 years, I realized when I call them, they pick up the phone. It's chaste Punjabi. The conversations happen in chaste Punjabi.
Wow. That's great. That's fantastic. Because that's the concern I have as a parent. I want my kids to be better than I am. I want, my wife and I, we want them to be better than we are. And we struggle with speaking Punjabi. We understand it just fine. We grew up. Actually, I only spoke Punjabi until kindergarten. My mom tells me that now. She's like, it was as soon as you started school, she goes, then you switched to English, and I never really switched back. Even a few times that we went to India, I would start to get a little more comfortable, start speaking a little bit. And then as soon as we would come back here and go back to school, it was switch back to English, just out of habit or whatever it was. And my tongue doesn't move very well for speaking Punjabi. And I was mentioning to you earlier, another difficulty I run into is I run out of ways to say, I can't have a deep conversation on anything. If somebody wants to talk to me topically,
how are you? How many kids do you have? I can answer these kinds of questions, simple conversation. But if somebody said to me, hey, explain to me why it's a seller's market in real estate today and what's going to happen with the interest rates, I would be overwhelmed thinking, how am I going to translate all my English thoughts into Punjabi and what words am I going to, I would be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So that difficulty, I don't want my kids to have that. Right. So we're encouraging that they take Punjabi classes, that they try to learn better Punjabi, and it's difficult for us. So we do struggle with this.
So we should talk about it in this program, I think.
Yeah.
Is how to do it. I think that can be your focus, because I've lived that and I've taught myself. So and it's doable. And the trick to it is one is speaking, like speaking at home. So no matter how many classes you're gonna send your kids to for learning Punjabi, they're gonna speak in Punjabi in that class. And they're going to learn some Punjabi, and they're going to come back home and they're going to switch. They're going to go right back to 0.0. So it has to, you have to inculcate the environment inside the home. It's like, when you learn any language, you have to submerge yourself. You have to immerse yourself in it.
Okay.
You learn better French by going to France. That's why we have exchange programs. So my son learned French in high school, 4 years. And then in college, all 4 years he took French. But his Punjabi is better than his French. It's because I speak to him in Punjabi all the time. And he doesn't have anybody to speak in French to. So you have to submerge yourself in the language. That's number one. And number two is reading. So unless you read the literature in that language, your thoughts are not going to expand. ਸੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਰੀਅਲ ਅਸਟੇਟ ਦਾ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਐਕਸਪਲੇਨ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਰੀਅਲ ਅਸਟੇਟ ਵਾਲੇ ਬੰਦਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਂ ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਕੁਝ ਪੜ੍ਹਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੋ ਇਫ ਯੂ ਰੀਡ ਇਨ ਦੈਟ ਸੋ ਆਰ ਕਿਡਸ ਦੇ ਆਰ ਨਾਟ ਏਬਲ ਟੂ ਐਕਸਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਦੇਅਰ ਥਾਟਸ ਇਨ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਹੀਅਰ from my research teaching many kids is because they're not reading enough material. So ਤੁਸੀਂ ਘਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲ ਵੀ ਕਰੋਗੇ ਤੇ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਕੁ ਕਰੋਗੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਮਾਪਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਆਹ ਖਾਣਾ ਹੈ ਮੈਂ ਉਹ ਖਾਣਾ ਸਕੂਲ ਅੱਜ ਇਹ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਅੱਜ ਸਰਦੀ ਅੱਜ ਗਰਮੀ ਆ ਅੱਜ ਇਹ ਹੋਇਆ ਅੱਜ ਇਹ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਹੋਈ ਪਰ complex thoughts how are you going to formulate them unless you have help and then if you're exposed to literature if you're exposed to stories reading things, it's going to help you formulate.